Well, Barbara, like I said, it's a complete pleasure to have you on the Caregiver Cup podcast. And as a matter of fact, this past month, I must be manifesting you and the universe when it comes to Alzheimer's because there's been a lot of listeners saying, is there any more resources out there for dementia and Alzheimer's?
Oh,
And I've been
that's
hearing from them. So, and Caregiver Cup listeners, you probably have known Barbara, know Barbara for her celebrity status on Shark Tank and the renowned entrepreneur and author and leader and speaker. I could go on and on. And
beauty queen you left out.
oh gosh, yes.
You're
And for
something
me,
like
really?
that. Not really. I wish I was.
Well, you should be. You should be. So, but I don't think very many people know you for being a caregiver or the advocate for this terrible disease that your mother Florence went through. So, I cannot wait for you to share your story and start with that right away.
Okay. Do you want me to just tell you the story first off, Kathy?
Yeah, let's go ahead and share the story because I was watching a few of your videos and you called your mom a love bug. And
Exactly. It's the best word to describe her.
I had tears rolling down my eyes because I lost my mom 2 years ago. And so I felt that connection the same way. So
Yeah.
tell me about your mom, Florence.
Well, other than her being a love bug, which I guess is the best word to describe her personality, everybody talks about their mother, usually the same way. So I don't mean to be boring, but
No,
everybody
not at
loved my
all.
mother. Her kids, the neighborhood, the friends, everybody loved my mother. And she was filled with life and energy.
Oh,
I
yes.
always say I never saw my mother sleep till she died. It's the truth. I never saw her lay down in my life.
Oh,
She was
my
always on her
gosh.
feet through the night, through the day. I don't know how she did it,
Well,
but
and you
she
were from
raised
a family of 10? You have 10
10
siblings?
children, and she had us
Wow.
in a two-bedroom house. She made all those children in the living room couch with my dad. I don't know how they did it, but
Oh,
she had a
my
baby every
gosh.
year and a half, just about. And their dream was to have 12 children. They only got 10. So she kind of felt let down a little. Crazy, isn't it? I think she did enough, but they had the
Yeah.
goal mutually of 12 children, an even
Wow.
dozen.
Wow.
My mother was very capable until very abruptly we started seeing signs of what we thought were her normal aging. And we all talked about it as siblings because we visited her. At that point, she had been in Florida 2 years with my father, who had retired and had an easy life in Florida, had a little house. My dad was golfing, everything was happy. But she started becoming very forgetful fast.
Mm.
Things that usually happen when people get older, like forgetting her keys, not knowing where her glasses were. But then one day when I was visiting her in Florida, she couldn't remember her best friend's name who came to visit. Her name was Marion. And I'm like, you remember Marion, Mom? She's been your best friend your whole life. She could not remember Marion's name, which was gave me pause for thought.
Yeah.
But shortly after that, she came to take care of my brother T, who was hospitalized from, and she came to Brooklyn to take care of him. And she didn't recognize the house the second day she was there. She didn't know where she was. And then the day after that, she couldn't recognize T. She said, "Who's that man? Who are you?"
Oh,
And that was
no.
really creepy.
Oh,
So
no. Yeah.
T said, "Something's wrong with Mom. It's just not forgetfulness."
Yeah.
Once she was diagnosed, T took a course in Brooklyn that weekend on how to deal with Alzheimer's patients and brought the whole family together, partially as out of the goodness of his heart and partially out of instruction from the course. He brought us all together and we all discussed Mom probably having Alzheimer's. It's going to get worse, and what we could all do. And we all surveyed each other's as to the best use of us. So we had
Oh,
a incredible group of kids, really all close in age and equally adoring my mother. And we assigned duties. My job, because I had the most money, was to pay for everything, the easiest job in the world,
mm,
which took a lot of angst out of the whole program right away. I had my sister who was a hospice nurse.
okay.
Her job was to make all the medical decisions because she had an awareness of it. My other
Yeah.
sister quit her job as an administrator and took care of my mother and father at first together, then later my mother in Florida. And then later she moved and was taken care of by another sister in a home in New Jersey until she finally wound up in the home. This whole long story took about 8 years before she died.
Isn't it
But
amazing? Isn't it amazing how the family can come together and everybody finds their role? It happened with my brother and my sister
oh,
too. We kind of
oh,
had our roles too, and if you
and
work
how did you
together.
decide on your roles? How
Well,
did that actually?
my sister was a certified nursing assistant, so she
Wow.
knew how to do the care piece. My brother just listened to instructions really well. We had him doing all
Just
of
like a
those.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was really good at the administrative stuff and being
So
able
important, my gosh.
to take care of all of that insurance
A
and the
lot of detail,
paperwork
a
and
lot of detail.
advocating. Yeah, so we kind of did that with our parents.
And the best thing of all was neither of you had resentment toward one another.
No,
Everybody was participating.
yeah, you kind of,
That's not usually the case that I've seen with, certainly with Alzheimer's, dementia. Not usually the case that everybody
really,
participates. There's usually a lot of resentment,
mm,
unfortunately. And some
unfortunately.
people that have to go it alone, even though they have other siblings. So you and I were both lucky in that way.
Yeah, we
Really
were
lucky.
lucky.
Yeah. Um, Things changed when my mother got to the home, right as she got to the home, actually, which was the last 2 years of her life. My sister in New Jersey, she was bedridden and everything was going wrong. So we all knew it was time. And three of my siblings drove her to the home when that decision was collectively made. And she screamed at us. We never saw
Oh,
the side of my mother. You don't care
oh,
for me. Look what you're doing to me. Anger, ferocious anger.
mm,
I guess we thought it was probably expected because she's going to home and didn't want to go to home.
hmm,
But more than that, we were so shocked to see a side of my mother we had never seen before. An angry, bitter woman. It was like, that's not our mom. She's a love bug. No, that's not my mom. But that started her down a slightly different path. And
mm,
it didn't seem just like Alzheimer's dementia anymore. It sounded, even though we didn't know the name for it then, I don't even know if they had a name for it, but today it's called agitation and Alzheimer's dementia, and it's a separate but a related condition, but shows itself very differently.
mm,
I think the symptoms there are typically restlessness, verbal and physical aggression. My mother wasn't physical, but she was verbally aggressive, and she was certainly restless. Uh, the home which my sister ran, which we were so lucky for, so she got excellent
really,
attention.
really.
She would constantly be restless. My mother never could settle on the spot. Angry and restless. I would say to
Really?
describe her a
Really?
lot.
Really?
And she would wander around the home, and the home eventually locked her in a room to protect her, which was terrible. But someone in the home was smart enough to figure out what she was restless for, and she was looking for
Good.
the laundry room because she had done so many loads of wash her whole life for 10 children that she wanted to do her laundry. And
Okay.
so the nurses parked her in the laundry room and gave her the same 10 towels to fold over and over again. And she was
Really?
happy. It
Oh,
really made
good.
a big difference that somebody was on their feet and thinking,
Thank
you know,
goodness they identified it versus just keeping
yes,
her
I
locked
don't
up
think
in
they
a
knew
room.
why that was or who that was. I should have really thanked them at
Yeah.
the time, but we were just so relieved. I didn't really think that far.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in hindsight, we should have called the doctor, her doctor. We only had to visit the doctor to make the diagnosis, and then we were off on our own taking care of her. But
Okay.
we could have said, hey, there's something else going on, but we didn't know it. We
Mm,
just thought it was part of a typical dementia person.
right.
And eventually she regressed to a much younger age after being upset at the veins in her hands when she thought she was 23 and beautiful, after being
Okay.
upset that she couldn't find her children because my brother hadn't yet bought her a baby doll to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just she regressed, and then she died about 2 years after she was in the home.
Oh, geez. Yeah. My husband's grandpa had Alzheimer's, and I remember visiting the Alzheimer's facility with my little at the time. Now he's 40, but he was only 2 years old, and the lady was carrying around a baby, but she kept sticking a bottle into my son's mouth, saying, "He's hungry, he's hungry, he's hungry. Feed him, feed him." And then at one time she snuck a candy bar in his mouth. So, and I had to say, "He's not hungry. You need to go ahead and eat the candy by yourself or give it to your baby."
At least she
But
didn't shout at her. A lot of people would have shouted at her.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, but
I bet
it,
your son wanted the candy bar. Why'd you keep it from him?
right.
Yeah, you're
Right.
me,
Oh,
mother, to your
I
soulless son.
I know it. Yeah. So I think that this is just fascinating because I'm starting to see commercials on TV now, finally, about the agitation side of Alzheimer's.
It should really be well known. The word has to get out there because you know why? Because people do this journey on their own and they enclose themselves. And it's really meant to open the doors and get information. You know,
Yeah.
there's a great website called recognizealzheimersagitation.com
Yeah.
that's chock full of information that can make people feel like, oh, that's it. Oh, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
when it applies, because it applies to 50% of the cases.
Wow.
But people don't realize they have access to good information.
Right. So how long did your mom have the disease then, that from when you went to the doctor until she passed away?
9 years exactly.
Oh my
It was a
gosh.
long 9 years. It felt like
Yeah.
100 years.
Right. Yeah. And so I can't only, I know I have caregivers that are saying they feel frustrated, they feel resentment, they feel angry. I'm sure you
The
felt that way.
caregivers or the patient, you mean?
No, the caregiver felt that way.
Oh,
What
rough.
advice would you have for a caregiver that is feeling this way with their loved one? I'm assuming they're in the early stages where they're recognizing the issue, kind of like your sister was taking care of
Yeah.
your mom.
I think it's okay to be impatient. I mean, it's a human condition we all have. It's a
Hmm.
hard disease to live with, and impatience is okay.
Hmm.
But I think where the line is crossed is when a caregiver verbally puts someone down,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
or acts to put them down. And
Right.
fortunately, we didn't have that because we had family caring for her and
Yeah.
compassionate family.
Yeah.
But I have advised a number of my friends' children. I don't like that caregiver. Get rid of her. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
harsh 'cause I fire people
Right.
easily, but
Right. It's not
attitude
that
can
it's
change. You can
yeah,
help
it's
them with what the tasks are. How could I make it easier? How could I help you? But you can't change attitude. I don't find you can never change
right,
attitude.
right,
Yeah.
because you can't blame the patient or the loved one because it's the disease, you
You know
know?
what else enters into that situation? I honestly think, Kathy, I think there's some level of guilt toward the caregiver and mother because the caregiver's taking care of the parent, which
Yeah,
you might be paying for. So you're doing the best you can, doing the job you can. You may be working, but there's a sense. Always with me, it was a sense like, shouldn't I be here all the time with her?
yeah,
Shouldn't it be me? So you
yeah.
tend to settle a little more than you should, I think.
I agree.
Out of guilt.
I just did a podcast episode. That's my whole platform is, you have to be the manager of this caregiving journey. You can't do it all yourself. And
Yeah,
you have to go ahead and take care of yourself so you can give the quality of care to your loved one. And really treat, if you're the solo caregiver, treat that like your business and really saying, how can I give the best possible care to my mother? How can I give the best possible care to my loved one? And being able to do that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way of framing it. What you just said. I think too often it becomes someone's obsession and they're not taking care of themselves.
that's a
They just go down
very
that
good
rabbit
point.
hole.
Very good point. Can you help us with, let's say you go to the doctor now and the doctor diagnoses your loved one with Alzheimer's. How can they be a better advocate in this journey, knowing that we probably, because you had said we wish we would have been able to go ahead and meet with that doctor. At least that's what I thought you had said
More often,
more
yes,
often.
you go
Yeah.
back.
What?
Honestly, I don't think you can expect that from a medical doctor making the diagnosis. I think their job is to make the diagnosis.
Okay.
I think it's on the part of the family to say, what resources do I have available to me?
There we go. Okay.
So far as insurance goes, very important because it involves money.
Hmm.
So far as resources to get assistance with home care, all that stuff. Why invent it yourself? There's so much out there, but you got to push for that information. I think to get yourself educated as fast as you can from as
Okay.
many sources as you can is key. I think it
Hmm.
makes all the difference.
So your brother T, when he went and got that education, I think that was probably the game changer for all of you. You all
We
jumped
would
right
have been
into action.
we would have been explaining to my mother every 2 weeks for the rest of her life. Sorry, mommy, daddy's dead, and watch her go through the morning. Versus T, who taught us to say, "Daddy's downstairs warming up the car." I
Oh,
mean, as simple as that. illustration is the idea that you go into the person's world versus expect them to come into yours is key, I think, to changing the care for someone with Alzheimer's.
Okay. I did not know that. I'm fortunate enough not to have it, but you never know in this world. It's really
You
good to have.
never know; it's right around the corner when you're not looking.
Right.
I
And
run
being
for
able,
my life.
yeah, and live in their world versus fighting them and, doing that. That's a really good point, but I
Let
think
me
a
give
lot
you
of
a
us
vivid
don't.
illustration
Okay.
of another thing that we learned the lesson. I was with my brother T visiting my mother's together, and she said, "There's a snake under my bed. There's a snake under my bed." And I got on my hands and knees, helped her bend down, and said, "See, there's no snake there. There's no snake there, Mom." And she kept saying, "There's a snake under my bed. There's a snake on my." And my brother got down with the broom and killed the snake. And boy, was that a life lesson. And we followed that course of action every time with it to agree with what she saw because it was real to her
Hmm.
uh, versus dismiss it, which was really what we were operating from, a dismissal attitude at first. Like,
Me
no, you
too.
remember, Mom, you remember we told you about, you remember. And she didn't remember.
No,
And
because
it was mean for us to do that. We didn't see
yeah,
it as mean, but it was mean.
when you would dismiss it, what would happen?
She would persist. And then you had
Okay.
two grown ups, because she's still a grown up with her own dignity, and
Yeah.
ourselves arguing over something. What for? Well, we
Hmm.
weren't there to argue or to prove anything. We were there to make her feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow, that's so insightful. Oh my gosh, so insightful. So, yeah, so I think the sending the caregivers to your site. Now, I heard from uh Erin that you have I Wish I Knew. Is that the platform that you are trying to promote this
I
awareness
am,
on?
I am certainly, and the reason for that is whether we even had labels for it back when my mother was so sick.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, I wish I knew a lot more than I knew.
Yeah.
We just took my brother's direction. We felt whole as a unit because we had so many of us protecting her.
Hmm.
But I'm thinking of all the people that are on their own or with just one person, and uh, they should be saying, "I wish I knew," or never saying, "I wish I knew," finding out what they don't know right now.
Hmm.
Because knowledge is power, and knowledge is options, and knowledge makes things better. Even holding hands with someone is a certain kind of emotional knowledge that you need help. So it's more of a collective, we wish we knew. You know, with my family, it was we wish we knew, but everybody they wish they knew, they should really wish they. I won't say it again. Wish they knew. It's going to sound silly as I say it.
No, I have two more questions for you here, and
Yes,
then I'm
ma'am.
just going to let you do a closing piece here. And I think for me is if you had to tell a new caregiver, and they walked in and they got that diagnosis and they kind of knew it was coming, what advice would you give them
I know
when
what I
they?
say. When they start, I'd be very clear about what the expectation was, but in attitude, I'd address it right up on the front side. I would say your number one job here is not to differ with my mother or my father or whoever is sick, not to differ with them. Whatever they say goes. You know, you can insist that you care for them and do that, but whatever is in their imagination, you agree with,
That's my
because
key
that takes
takeaway
away
today.
so much of the angst, so much of the angst that's so unnecessary. Nobody wants to be a lady on that escalator in Bloomingdale scolding her mother.
I know
So sad.
it's sad. It's sad. And I can kind of relate to that. And I kind of feel bad now with not knowing that with my mom at the very end as well, and some of the things that she did in her 2 weeks of hospice care. If I would have just went with it and let her, yeah, I think that's a good advice. And
Yeah,
it's so
that's the
insightful.
biggest thing I learned. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I want to end on a light note and a fun
A light
note.
note.
Yes. What is something that you are most proud of in that caregiving journey with your mom and your family and helping your mom through those grueling last years of her life? But what made you most proud?
Most proud spending the time. There were
Yeah.
Sundays where it was my only day off. I was dog tired from traveling around the country because I traveled for a living. And the last thing I wanted to do is get in a car and travel 2.5 hours to visit my mother. And there was never a visit that I'd say, thank God I went. Thank God I went. You don't know how long you're going to have somebody in your life. But
Exactly.
I think I was proud that I put forward the effort.
Yeah,
And it takes a lot of effort. It really
it
does.
does.
Without a lot of return. But consummately, there's a lot of return over the long haul.
Hmm.
You feel like you did the right thing.
Yeah. I call those Sunday fun days with my mom.
I
She
didn't go as
wanted,
far as Sunday.
yeah.
We did.
with, yeah, with my mom, she wanted me to be with her all the time. And I'm like, I can't, Mom. I'm working. I'm running a business. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. But you know what? Sunday is our fun day.
That's a
So
great idea to get. Did you remember that?
she
Or
did.
especially
And
the kids did.
she had this agenda mapped out of all the things we were going to do on Sunday.
Great. And you gave her the possibility of looking forward. How important is that?
Yeah. So that's
Amazing
just
can
one of
happen
the,
on Sunday.
yeah. Yeah.
Most people who visit people in homes, you know what they say? I'll see you. I'll see you. No conclusion as to when they'll see you because they
Hmm.
really don't have it in their head when they'll see you. Yeah,
Hmm.
very smart.
Yeah. We
I can
circled the
copy it. I
days.
don't have my mom, but that's a good one.
Yeah, we circled the day and she would write and saying we want to do this and we want to do that. And yeah, she definitely
Lovely.
looked forward to it. So
I'm going to make that my other piece of advice and not give you any credit.
I don't care that I'll be honored no
Okay,
matter
I'll take
what.
it.
Well, it was a complete pleasure to meet you. And
Same.
I have this fan crush because you have
Fan
been.
crush. Never heard that.
Yes, fan crush. I've been asked like by different people if you could have five people go to dinner with you, who would those five people be? Well, you're on at the dinner table.
Good enough. You
You're
better
at
make some pasta for me.
you like your pasta and
I
salad, or
like
what do you like?
any form of pasta is fattening. I love it.
You are such a skinny lady anyway, so you
I'm
probably
gaining more
can.
weight. Believe me, I don't like being this skinny.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the way my mom
You
was.
either
My
get
mom,
too skinny or too fat when you get older. You don't have a choice. You go one
I
way or
know
the
it.
other.
I'm
Yeah.
the other way. I'm the other way. I want to be the other way. So
You don't want to wish the other way. I very often will leave a situation. A friend will say, "So and so was asking me, are you well?" That's not a good thing.
oh no, well, you're a beautiful lady. You're a beautiful lady
Nice
inside
to
and
meet you.
out. So thank you. I will
Thank
do
you.
my best to promote this from my end and share the website that Aaron gave me. So I'm cheering you on behind the scenes and hoping to help other caregivers. I just started this 4 years ago, just going behind the mic, and I wanted to help other caregivers because
You're so good at it. Nobody's paying attention to them.
I know what I have to do. Yeah. Well, maybe you'll help me get a little bit more traction now. Your name well.
Hope so.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. If I was there, I'd give you a hug. I don't know if you're a hugger or not, but
I'm a
thank you.
hugger. I took the hugs from you too. You look like a good one.
Well, thank you very, very much for your time. And I look forward to going ahead and sharing your message.
Thanks, Kathy. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye now.